Welcome to the Klondike Gold Rush National Park Skagway Unit. I suggest you start is at the museum here in Skagway. The corner of 2nd Avenue and Broadway, kitty corner to the Red Onion Saloon. These are the locations that the National Park has specifically within their ownership. The green area there is the Historic District. Welcome to the Klondike Gold Rush National Historic Park Skagway Unit Museum. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the museum and then we're going to go look at other properties here in the Skagway unit around town. This is an example of how they would ship out the gold after it was harvested from the gold fields. So when you come in here to the Klondike Gold Rush National Park Museum, it kind of follows a path. So, we are at the start right here. So much like Seattle, you meet fellow travelers and you experience their journey as you go through. You also have main characters that were major participants in the Klondike Gold Rush, but weren't necessarily fellow travelers in the quest for gold. So the museum here has awesome displays, much like Seattle's unit does, and just follow it through. So we're now at Station 2, and it talks about the different routes to the gold field. So you kind of had your choice to go all the way around to St. Michael and then come up the Yukon to Dawson City. Or you could also follow the purple route, come up here to Skagway, and then take either the White Pass or Chilkoot trails to Dawson City. Both had its pros and cons. And, you know, you had to decide what was best for you. Much like the Seattle sector of the museum, there are displays with information and posters to read. So there were two boom towns in the immediate area of the Klondike Gold Rush. Dyea was at the foot of the Chilkoot Trail, where Skagway was at the foot of the White Pass Trail. So, Dyea is the Tlingit word to pack, where Skagway is the Tlingit word which means roughed up water. So, you had one which had a steeper trail and one which had a gradual trail. Prospectors had to decide which trail they were going to use. Do you go shorter but steeper, or do you go longer and easier to travel up? One you could take animals, the other you couldn't. So it really was, the pros and cons had to be weighed once again to decide which was more effective getting up there for you. At this point in time, the museum splits into two parts. It explains about the Chilkoot, and it also explains about the White Pass Trail. So you will want to read both displays, but it kind of follows one side against on the Chilkoot and then the other on the White Pass.
Well, the big one is when you look at that, both came back from the war. When brothers only went to war.
I'm going out.
When you reach the shores of Lake Bennett, which is the modern day town of Carcross, which we were at earlier today, prospectors had to build a boat to make it their way up to Dawson City. So this part of the display explains how you build your boat and the journey that you had to travel on to get to where you were. It also talks about how the fellow travelers that we met at the beginning of the museum here fared along the way. Much like Seattle, they also have a Wheel of Chance. So let's spin it and see what we get.
Yeah, but there's foliage in it. They'll put it up. It's going up. We'll have to come back and see it up.
I put that I went to Dawson, found the 20.
I love it. That was good, Rosemary. Okay. Okay, the upstairs is good. Okay, so that. We will go.
No, it makes sense that that's what those are called.
So we ended up turning back on the trail. Oh, wait. And we still turned back on the trail and didn't make this. And then this is a final display that they have. How the Klondike Gold Rush impacted modern day culture. So, Klondike bars. And then other things. So the Klondike Gold Rush National Historic Park has, the National Park Service has several buildings here in town. This is the Molasses Geographic Shop, the official partner of the Klondike Gold Rush National Park and National Historic Park. So you can get all your like souvenir stuff in there. Right over here is Jeff Smith's Parlor Museum. This is one of the locations that you can actually get a guided tour from the National Park Ranger. It is on 2nd Street, heading to the north from Broadway. So it is, the actual parlor is closed, but you can walk through this part right here. And so this kind of tells you what the attraction looks like inside. So some of the buildings here in the National Park Service Historical District are owned by the National Park Service. And so they have plaques on their doors if they are owned by the National Park Service saying what they were and the year that they were in that. So this used to be Vera Baldwin's Confectionery in 1899, and it's now Fresh Taya River Fresh Local Art. This one was the Hearn Liquor Store in 1937, another National Park owned building. Pacific Clipper Line office in 1898. So this right here is the mascot. It's a National Park, part of the museum. And they have a bunch of Seattle brewing bottles, Rainier beer. It's really, really cool. So we're gonna head in there. So it's a replica of a saloon. I'm going to step back so we can get a wider angle. So this is a restoration of the Mascot Saloon. The Mascot Saloon was one of the first saloons in town to have a permanent establishment after the city of Skagway had a $1,500 license fee imposed on the saloons, which were mainly operating out by tents. So the Mascot here incorporated, they established a permanent building so that way they could continue to serve, and they expanded their services. And this talks about the restoration of the Mascot Saloon. So this information board kind of talks about Skagway's main characters, its boomtown saloons, and the general Skagway community. And Skagway has changed quite a bit in the time frame, and especially to what it is now, being a major Alaskan cruise port. So this is really, really cool to see, and definitely check it out if you're here in Skagway. One thing of note is the Mascot building does have a public restroom, as well as a drinking fountain and a water bottle refill station in case you brought your own water bottle. So this property is part of the National Historic Park. It's the Historic Moore Homestead. Captain William Moore was one of the influential people who helped get the trail over the White Pass established, and he created a homestead here in what is now Skagway, and called it Mooresville, and the claim was originally 160 acres, and subsequent claims brought it down, and then the National Park Service has what is left of the property here as a part of the National Historic Site. So the Trail Center here is another building of the Klondike Gold Rush International Historic Park. So it's the Trail Center. So this building is in cooperation with Parks Canada, and this is where you can get your permit to hike up the Chilkoot Trail. So one thing I've noticed, if you have kids and they participate in the Junior Ranger program, the Pantheon here for the Klondike Gold Rush National Park is where the Junior Ranger activities take place. So I hope I've given you a broad view of the different national park aspects here in Skagway. The National Park Service does operate 4 units, the first being Seattle, the second being Skagway Historical Area here, the third one is the town side of Dea, and then the fourth one is the White Pass Trail. So all of these incorporate the 4 units of the Klondike Gold Rush National Historic Park. So please take a time to visit, explore, and find your park.
Find your park.